All right, good evening. Welcome. Does everybody get food? Everybody get enough to eat? All right, I'm going to pray. Tonight's going to be a lot different than what we normally do. We're going to do an update on the trip that Mike and I just did, so I'm going to share a bit. Mike is going to come down in a moment, and he's going to share a little bit too. Show you guys some pictures and just kind of fill you in on the last couple weeks and what's going on with Far-Reaching Ministries and kind of connect some dots and stuff. So why don't we just go ahead and open in prayer, and then we'll move along. Father, we're grateful for tonight, Lord. I just thank you for, Lord, I thank you for this fellowship. Lord, I thank you for just this time that we can spend together. Lord, I thank you for the food and just the family. And Lord, I just pray for our night. Lord, I pray that it would be encouraging and informative. And Lord, that you would just direct it and be with the kids tonight too. And I just pray that you're glorified in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. How many of you guys were here a couple weeks ago when Edward Amaya was here? So most people. Is anybody not familiar with Far-Reaching Ministries? Through the... Okay, so sounds like we're all good. So Mike and I went once a year. Far-Reaching Ministries brings all of their chaplains off the front line for a 2-week refresher course. That's what we were there for. I was able to go back in 2019 for the same thing. Far-Reaching Ministries, so they have classes of chaplains. This year they're going to be starting class 12. I don't know how many guys they have in the class, but I know that there's 4 guys that remain from class 1, which was probably about 18 years ago, I think, is when the first class started, 16 years ago. I think it was 99 when the first class was. Far-Reaching Ministries, so the chaplains that they have are frontline combat chaplains. It's different than the chaplains. Like the chaplains in the U.S. military don't carry weapons. They don't fight on the front lines. These guys are fighting on the front lines. In fact, I don't think I took a picture of it, but they have one of the guys that was killed a couple years ago. They have a statue made of him, and it's awesome. The statue is really cool. It's got him. He's holding a Bible, and then he's got a AK-47 strapped on his back. It's just a really neat, it's a really cool statue. But these guys are fighting on the front lines. So Far-Reaching Ministries, in the course of the last 10, 15 years or so, they've lost 76 chaplains in combat. They have a room, like a memorial room, that's probably like maybe a quarter the size of this room, where they have plaques along the walls of everybody that they've lost in combat, but they've run out of room. Like that, it's kind of wild, actually. They don't have room on the walls anymore for all the memorials. The Far-Reaching Ministries also works with the chaplains in Ukraine and Russian chaplains as well. So the guy that heads up the Ukrainian chaplains, he was on this trip with us. And it's just interesting. It's like such a different perspective than, we typically have this idea of war, and there's good guys and bad guys, and that's kind of, it's almost as black and white as that, when it's really not. It's never that black and white. But the Ukrainian guys, it's cool because they'll go to, I believe it's Moldova, where they're training the Russian chaplains, and then in Ukraine they're training the Ukrainian chaplains. And the whole idea is that there's men that are fighting on the front lines, losing their life in battle, that don't know Jesus. So I love that. That's not a Stamus girl up there, is it? That's awesome. But yeah, so that's the whole idea, is that there's people dying on the front lines of combat that don't know Jesus, and I don't think it matters what side they're on as far as the chaplains are concerned. If they have the opportunity to share the Lord with somebody, And these guys are just heroes. Like I've given a couple updates in different places, so some of you guys have heard this already. But you sit down and talk with these guys, and you could make movies out of every one of these guys' lives. It's unbelievable, and just the things that these guys experience, that they go through, is just absolutely amazing. And so it's just a completely different world that they've grown up in. Like, the perspective is different. This is what they know. This is all they know. I have a picture, one of the pictures that we'll look at, the building where they have the memorial inside it. Out on the outside, it's inscribed on the wall. It says that whether we live or die, we will be with Christ. And that's really the perspective. Like, as those guys leave, like I've mentioned it, like we're back here. All the guys, everybody that did this refresher course is back home, back in their churches or whatever. These guys are all back on the front lines already. So they leave there with that mindset. Like, I've heard them. They have the discussion. They'll sit there, and I wasn't in there this time, but last time I was there, I was able to be there when the head chaplain was kind of giving a brief to everybody and just reminding them, like, hey, not everybody will be back here next year. Like, that's just the reality of it. They're going out on the front lines, and they're going out there with that understanding, and with the understanding that the Lord, like, if they're to live, the Lord will protect them, and if they die, they'll be with Christ. Whether we live or die, we'll be with Christ. Mike and I'll show you another picture here in a moment of one of the guys named Lino. Lino is one of the head chaplains, and just really soft-spoken guy. Like, you totally doesn't fit the mold as far as you look at him. But in fact, when I was there last time I was there, we had a devotional one morning, and Lino came and taught the devotional, and I believe it was Psalm. Let me see real quick. Psalm 139. I made a note in here when he said it because it was just kind of wild to me. Psalm 145. So this was October 4th, 2019. And Lino's sharing this devotion with a handful of chaplains and then all the pastors that were there. And Psalm 145, verse 1 and 2, it says, I will extol you, my God, O King, and I will bless your name forever and ever. Every day I will bless you, and I will praise your name forever and ever. And when Lino was sharing that, he was talking about how beautiful the sunrise was that morning, and just praising the Lord for the sunrise. And that really struck me, because the perspective to be able to stop and like recognize the sunrise and give God glory for how beautiful the sunrise is. And these are guys who are experiencing atrocious things all the time, and things that I don't think are normal for people to experience. But having that mindset, and it's a completely different world. Lino was sharing some stories with Mike and I on the way there. It was kind of neat. It was myself, Mike, and then another guy named Ben, who was Canadian, who was an infantry special forces guy for Canada. And him and Mike went to some of the same places in Afghanistan. I think Ben was a little bit before Mike, but served in some of the same places, a lot of the same experiences. So the three of us and Lino got to make the ride the first time from the guest house to the farm. No, I'm sorry, from the farm to the base in Nimili. And there's a couple of Lino's stories that I remember that I didn't remember all the details. So I asked Lino to share the stories with Mike, but I'll just share one of them. It's just an amazing thing to me. But and having this soft-spoken, this heart that just trusting in the Lord. So Lino one night was at the guest house. Far Reaching Ministries has a guest house in Kampala. So you fly into Entebbe, and then you drive like an hour to Kampala. So Lino's in the guest house in Kampala by himself, and the guest house gets raided. There's like 8 guys, I think, come in, and they ambush Lino. They tie him up, throw him in a room. I found this out the other day, because the people that live at the guest house have these 2 huge, I think they're Great Danes, but 2 huge dogs. And when the guys came in, they poisoned the dogs. One of them died, but one of them's still alive. But they tied Lino up. So Lino's, as he tells the story, I wish, as he's like halfway through it, I'm like, oh, I wish I was recording this story. But he's like, I just trust in the Lord, and if they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me. But if I'm going to do everything I can to stop what they're doing and get out, so just trust the Lord. And then, so they tied him up, and as the guys came in the room, he prayed that the Lord would just give him strength. The guys come in the room, and he ends up fighting back, like knocking one of the guys over or something. So then the guys get really upset, throw a bag over his head, beat him real bad, take him into another room, tie his hands and feet, and then they go back to trying to rob the guest house. So again, he prays, and as he's telling the story, again, it's so funny because he's so like almost like a high pitched, like very soft spoken, and he said, I just prayed that the Lord would give me strength and that the Lord would save me, and I just trusted the Lord. So he's like, as I was praying, I found out that I was able to loosen up the tie on my hand a little bit. So he was able to untie his hands, and then he was able to untie his feet and take the hood off. So then he hears the guy in the other part of the guys in the other part of the guest house. So he goes into the kitchen, and there's 8 guys. So he grabs 8 knives, and he puts 2 knives like in his boots, and he's holding all these knives. And he says, I just prayed again to the Lord to keep me safe, and he brought me this far. And now I was going to go show these guys something that they've never seen before. And then he says, as he goes out, something happened, and I just believe that the Lord did something. Something happened where the guys just immediately dropped everything and fled. Like they dropped everything and ran off. Didn't steal anything. Lino wasn't hurt badly or anything like that. And again, just attributing it all to the Lord. And there's a couple other stories that he told us of different ambushes that he was in. One time he was in a truck, and the truck he was in got blown up, and the guy that was driving the truck was killed. So he was able to get the guy's rifle and was able to get a couple people off of the battlefield. And there was another time where he was sleeping on a mat, and middle of the night, I don't remember why. I think he got up to go to the bathroom or something, but it was one of those things, like he gets up and he walks away from where he's sleeping, and 10 seconds later a mortar round hits his bed, and it's just the Lord just protected him. But he's telling these stories like we would talk about, like going to get coffee or something. Like, it's just wild. But and he's just one of hundreds of guys who have stories like this. And I'll let Mike share the story of one of the guys that he connected with really well over there. But I want to show you guys just some pictures from the trip, and kind of talk through kind of the order of things and how things went. And then when Mike gets down, I'm going to give him a minute to share too, and then hopefully we'll have some time if anybody has any questions or anything. But just want to get just so you guys can see what they have going on over there. Again, Edward was sharing, but Far Reaching Ministries is in like 41 or 42 different countries now. They have obviously the work in Uganda and South Sudan. They're in Syria and Afghanistan and Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia. And then in South America, they're in Costa Rica and a handful of other places doing some pretty remarkable things. So it's really neat to be able to be a part of that and just to have the relationship with those guys. And it's just such an encouraging thing. So let me see if I can do this real quick. Now that I know how to do it. All right. So I think these are mostly in order. And I made a note. So this was the first Tuesday. So we left on Tuesday. So we got to watch a line. We were watching a line teaching on Tuesday on the airplane. And we first flew into Dubai, and we had an overnight layover in Dubai. And we were eating at the restaurant in the hotel where we stayed at. And then we start seeing all these other white people. So we're trying to guess who's on the trip with us or not. And there was like 3 different people that was like, oh, absolutely not. And then they were on the trip with us. But it was pretty funny. And it turns out like everybody's doing that. Like everybody's looking around the room and trying to figure out who's going with us and who's not. But then from Dubai, we flew to Entebbe, Entebbe is in Uganda. It's right on Lake Victoria. It's really pretty. You fly in over the lake or along the lake. Lake Victoria, right on the other side of Lake Victoria is Kisumu, which is in Kenya, which is like an hour from where my parents are at. So we've eaten lunch in Kisumu before. So then we go from, and there's a couple, Mike took a bunch of pictures. There's a lot of smiles at the beginning of the trip. This is the truck that we drove in. This is at the farm. I think I have some pictures at the end from the farm. I did really bad at taking pictures, so. But yeah, so that's at the farm. So the farm in Entebbe, this is kind of cool. When the far-reaching ministries first got here, so I say it's a farm, but it's really a base. It's a military base, and it was built about 15 years ago when the LRA, when the Lord's Resistance Army had a heavy presence in northern Uganda. So the LRA, and I don't know if Edward shared much about this. This used to be like the main thing of what they would talk about because it was the main thing that Far-Reaching Ministries was dealing with at the time. But the LRA, and I think the guy's name was James Tomey or James Toney. And right now there's like, it's a mystery if he's even alive or dead or anymore. But the LRA was the ones that were coming in and raiding villages and creating the child soldiers, doing atrocious things, like absolutely demonic, evil things. They would come into villages and they would round everybody up. I mean, these villages are just a series of mud huts and stuff, and they'd round everybody up and they would kill the men and just children and do unspeakable things to the women and children and stuff. But so while that was taking place, they built this base in Masindi, and it was a safe place where the women and children could find refuge. So they could come, and it would be just a place where they would be safe from the LRA. But then as the LRA presence kind of dwindled and that conflict kind of stopped, they turned it into a school, into a farm. So I think they have like 700 students in the school. And I don't really understand, like, their schooling it's not like kindergarten through 12th grade. It's like different numbers, so I don't know. But it was like probably like 4 years old to 15 years old or something like that. But 700 students, a bunch of teachers, and then it's a farm, and then there's a church there. There's a Calvary chapel on the property as well. So we spent the first, I think, maybe just even first day there, or 2 days, and then we went from there to the base in South Sudan. And I think I have a video of, I'm going to mess everything up here. I think I have a video of when we were coming into the base. Or maybe Mike did. All right, maybe not. So, the first weekend that we were on the base, we went out into the kind of village around the base and did some home visits. And I talked about this briefly on Sunday, but this is not our group because we weren't good about taking pictures, but this is one of the other groups that was with us. We broke up in, I think, 5 different groups and went out. And we were passing out laundry detergent and just praying with people. And I shared this on Sunday. I'll say it again. It was really interesting because I was so uncomfortable. This is so far out of my comfort zone to basically go. So Dave Zavala, I'll show you a picture of Dave here in a moment. Dave was the guy that was kind of in charge of the trip. And I asked Dave, I was like, hey, these guys are like expecting us, right? Like we're not just going to random homes. We're going to people. And he's like, oh, yeah. Well, they weren't expecting us. So it was like, we were like walk up, and the girl that was with us, who was from South Sudan, part of the church, she would like call out, and like they'd come outside and stuff. So, and then we took turns. I think there was like five of us maybe. And as we would go to each house, we would take turns kind of leading the conversation. So, just again, for me, it was very awkward. For other people, it's like second nature, but just kind of saying hi and what are we here for and everything, and praying. And one of the things that the Lord really kind of did to me, I think, it was very humbling. But the first person that I had to speak to, it was a young woman. She's maybe 30, like early 30s, bunch of kids everywhere, and just introduced ourselves. And a lot of them went to the church. So on the base in Nimali in South Sudan, there's a Calvary chapel there as well. So a lot of the people went to the church at that Calvary chapel. And first I thought that we were just visiting people from the church, but we were just visiting whoever was outside. But I was talking to her and just kind of introduced ourselves and asked what we can be praying for. And she started talking to our translators and telling them, and you could tell like the mood kind of, I don't know, it's just like they were very sympathetic towards what she was saying. And most of the people that we had talked to, like what they needed prayer for was everybody's sick. Everybody has like malaria or typhoid or just all sorts of stuff. Everybody is sick there with something. So like typically that's what it was, praying for somebody who was sick or their kid was sick or whatever. But then the first one that I get to, she asked for prayer that the Lord would help restore her marriage, which was just like, I don't know, that was such a humbling thing to not only hear, but then to pray for. And it was really sweet. And I, at least for me anyways, we haven't even talked about this. I didn't talk to Mike about this, but I feel like the tone in my heart anyways changed kind of right away for the rest of those visits. Again, for me, it's such an uncomfortable thing, but that was really cool. And there was a couple places that we went to that were like, where they had like graves right in front of their hut from like they had to bury their kid or they had to bury their husband or whatever, and they don't have the resources that we do for those kinds of things. Like somebody dies, you just kind of bury them wherever you can. So there was a lot of that stuff too. And then the first Sunday that we were there, we had church at the base in Nimali. And that was Gary Malkus from Calvary Chapel, Apple Valley in California, taught on that first Sunday. That was pretty cool. And then we started the refresher course. So there's like, how many got 320 something? So there's 330 chaplains that were there. And then a handful of there's probably 400 people or so that were part of this conference or refresher course. The theme of the refresher course was being a warrior for Christ, which again, like speaking to these guys, it's such a humble thing, or a humbling thing, to be talking to these guys who are actual warriors and like trying to encourage them on how to be a warrior for Christ. And I remember last time I was there, we had some breakout sessions. The schedule was a little bit different this time around. Last time we had some breakout sessions. And so we broke up in like 4 different areas, and I got to teach through 1 Thessalonians with those guys. And for me, this is probably like one of the biggest highlights, and at least in my life as far as ministry goes, but as far as like how significant something is. But I got to stand there and teach these guys, and I was thinking like, what am I going to tell these guys? How can I encourage them? They already know the Bible. Most of these guys they're not only chaplains, but most of them are pastors too. Like they go out and wherever they're stationed or wherever their unit is or whatever, they've started churches. And, it's not like you're teaching them to educate them. It's more of a teaching to encourage and whatever. So I got to teach 1 Thessalonians to these guys. And I said, it was just so cool. Like at the beginning of 1 Thessalonians, and chapter 1, verse 2, it says, "We give thanks to God always for you all, making mention of you in our prayers, remembering without ceasing your work of faith labor of love, and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ in the sight of our God and Father, knowing, beloved brethren, your election by God. For our gospel did not come to you in word only, but also in power, and in the Holy Spirit, and in much assurance, as you know what kind of men we were among you for your sake. And you have become followers of us and the Lord, having received the word in much affliction with joy of the Holy Spirit, so that you have become examples to all in Macedonia and Achaia who believe. For from you the word of the Lord has sounded forth, not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but also in every place. Your faith toward God had gone out, so that we do not need to say anything. And it was cool because I got to read that to those guys and tell them that I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but between Edward and Wes and these other guys traveling all over the world every Sunday in another church talking about far-reaching ministries, your testimony and your story has gone out, and it doesn't even need to be shared. People already know, and I got to tell these guys I don't think they realize it, and I also don't think they even care, but it's you guys are heroes. There's people in America that know you guys by name, and you guys are heroes because of just your faithfulness and your courage and everything else. So it's just neat to be able to sit there and share with these guys. And again, I don't. Maybe a lot of that goes right over their head. I don't think that they even care. They just have a mission. They know they have a mission, and there's really nothing else that is that important. So this was the start of it. This was the general of the South Sudanese army. He came for a couple days, which was kind of neat. We didn't know who it was when he first was there, and we were in a little room where we were eating lunch around this conference table. Maybe 20 people in there eating. And I heard one of the other guys say this too, because he was in there just with a t-shirt and sweatpants or something, and everybody's just kind of ignoring him. Didn't even realize who it was. It turns out it's the general of the army. And my only interaction with him is I shook his hand, and he looked at my tattoos, and he goes, "Are you happy with those?" And so I just said, "I'm not unhappy, but I don't know what else to say." So they're funny about tattoos over there. And then when we were there, last time I was there, we slaughtered 3 cows every day to feed everybody. So a lot of these guys, this is the only meat that they get to eat for the whole year, unless they just whatever they come across. Last time I was there, I remember Wes was telling me that anytime anything made of meat finds its way into the compound, it's going to be eaten. And I remember being out there one morning with these guys while they're butchering the cows, and a guy comes up with a cat that had gotten in, and he killed the cat, and he was so excited about eating the cat. But anyways, it's not the most sanitary practices that they have, but it works, and we ate, and we didn't get sick. At least we didn't get sick.
Yeah, we're good.
Other people did.
I ate a lot of Taco Bell.
Yeah, all the other people, huh? I didn't. No.
We know of, but
No, we ate. We had mostly beef. They killed a couple pigs too. A lot of goat. Yeah, goat, beef. I mean, we ate a lot of. That's an interesting thing with here and Uganda and Kenya, where my parents are too, where it's extreme poverty, but it's not a hungry place. There's plenty of food, but it is definitely extreme poverty. But they would take these. Last time I was there, Wes asked me to go out and help the guys that were butchering the cows, and just show them how to separate the meat and how to butcher it. And I went out there, and it's they have a process. There's no telling them what to do. They already have it all figured out.
Literally, the process is put a trash bag on it, get an axe.
Yeah. So and then they'll quarter it, and then they put it on a slab of wood, and then they just do this. But you guys can't be grossed out because this is our food. So last time I gave an update. I gave a trip update at Calvary Chapel, Palm Harbor after the trip, and I had a picture. I didn't think it was very graphic. It was just a dead cow, and then somebody got upset, got offended, and left. So nobody get offended and leave, but it's just meat, man.
There was no doing that.
All the stuff that's on the ground, I think, gets picked back up and
Yeah.
thrown in the pile.
Yeah, or given to the crocodiles. You show them the crocodiles yet?
Oh yeah, I got some crocodile pictures on here. The crocodiles? No.
Those are for a different project.
So, let's see. I'll go to the next picture. So.
Just leave that one up.
So this is the general. They had a big presentation when he was there. There was a bunch of cameras and all kinds of things. They made a big deal about it. This was our group with a handful of the chaplains. This is Wes sitting in the front. Dave Zavala is right behind Wes. So Dave, like that. Rachel asked me. So Dave Zavala, he's been with Far Reaching for like 20 years, but he spent 20 years in Kenya and knows my parents pretty well. And he actually did my sister and Dennis's premarital counseling before their wedding, so that's kind of neat. This is just the team. So this is where where the housing was. We had this is basically like a living room, I guess. This is where it was. The way that the housing was structured is there's different units, and there's a living room and then a handful of bedrooms, and there's like 4 or 5 units like that. And the one where Mike and I's room was turned out to be the one where everybody congregated. Yeah. So turned out that like Mike and I were the ones that would make coffee for everybody. We're just making it for ourselves, and then they would drink our coffee. So, but it was good. It was such a sweet team. It was a really neat group of people that Lord had brought together for this. Here's Mike. Mike did a really, really good job. I was super proud of him, and it was funny. I mentioned this before, but Emma from Far Reaching Ministries called me maybe a month before the trip, and she was asking about Mike, and she's like, what does he do at your church? And I was like, oh, he does our men's ministry. And she's like, does he teach? Should I have him teach? Like, what should we do? I said, oh, just throw him right in, have him do everything. So I didn't tell Mike that, but Mike was thrown right into the schedule, so he was in the teaching rotation, did a really good job. And it's not a normal teaching situation either. It's not like, you're using an interpreter, so that's difficult, that's challenging. Even just trying to find the pace with the interpreter. And then on top of that, there's a couple good, so this is Mike's interpreter here. Mike's praying with them, which I thought was appropriate, the right thing to do. And this is a few minutes later with the new interpreter because Mike's other interpreter got fired right in the middle of. So this guy comes up and tags the other guy out. The other guy was struggling. Mike said something, and the guy says it, and then everybody starts yelling because he says the wrong thing. And then this guy comes up and tags him out, and then everybody starts clapping. It's like, so, yeah, they're very honest. They're all very honest over there. When they were giving us a briefing at the beginning. One of the ladies was telling the women there to not be offended if they tell you that you're fat, because it's really a compliment, because they all want to be fat. So if they come and say, hey, oh, you're so fat, then it's a compliment. So
They also told us we can't cry.
yeah, they also told us we can't cry.
That's a challenge.
I'm just going to share a couple other quick things, and then I'm going to give Mike a chance to share. This is one of the pigs. This is a guy named Paul. I'll let Mike talk about Paul. This is a crocodile.
A hungry crocodile.
So this is kind of a cool thing. So I remember years ago Wes talking about them wanting to build a new citadel. They had a new property that they were going to build. And when these guys talk about the ministry that they're doing, it's so extraordinary that it sounds like it's embellishing. Like, there's no way that you guys are really doing all this stuff. There's no way that it's that size. There's no way that there's these kinds of things going on. Like, it just seems that it's just too extraordinary. And I remember one of the things Wes saying about the new place that they were going to build, the new compound, that they're going to put a moat around it with crocodiles. And it's like, that's ridiculous. And I remember the first time I go there, Wes is giving us a tour, and he's like, here's all the crocodiles. So they have it's like, okay, I guess he's not making it up.
Yeah, I don't think that fence is doing much. So
No.
I was a little worried about that.
No, somebody wanted to feed the crocodiles, so that's what that was. This was the jail. Yeah, so one of the days, again, like, out of my comfort zone. I love doing prison ministry. I love doing the prison ministry that we've done. General prison ministry is difficult. Like, I always, again, I'm just uncomfortable with it. But here they said, well, we're going to go to this jail. So we go to this jail, and this is the jail. It's a room that's smaller than this room here. It's just concrete walls, dirt floor. The only reason there's any light in there right now is because we're in there, so they open the doors. They have these big iron doors that when we showed up, the iron doors are just shut and locked. And we go inside, and it's just wall-to-wall people, kids that were 14, 15 years old, people that were there for all different types of reasons. There was people there that were there for murder, and then there was another guy there that was a cop who he was in charge of a squad of guys, and something came up missing, and so he was thrown in jail until they could find whatever was missing. So it's like across the board, and then you have kids in there. So it's just it was a pretty crazy place.
They're not funded, so it's like whoever drops off food or they don't eat.
Yeah.
It's like people drop their a couple of the guys I talked to are kids, and I was like, "What are you in here for?" And their mom just dropped them off because they're bad kids or whatever. And there's like, what's the time limit? You know? So they're just in there.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. It's not like it doesn't seem like they have a system that's like keeping track of everybody and their time and stuff. When we went, we brought a couple 100 pounds of cornmeal, I think, or rice.
Yeah, right.
Rice. And they were all excited because that means they could eat tomorrow. Like, it's just crazy circumstances. So we were in there. One of the guys shared the gospel. We got to pray with a bunch of kids. This was Mike and I in there, and Mike wanted to take a picture, and I didn't feel right about smiling in there, so we didn't really smile. But this is out front of that building that I was talking about earlier. Whether we live or die, we'll be with Christ. This is a picture that Mike took from behind the drum kit that you can kind of see out there. It's a really neat church, and this is also the only air-conditioned building on the, feels like in all of South Sudan, pretty much. Like, it was kind of cool. So we were sitting downstairs in the front, and they had split units for the AC, but the split units were upstairs. So one day after one of the sessions, we all kind of went to different areas to pray with guys, and I ended up going upstairs, and it was so nice up there that I ended up wanting to stay up there. But oh yeah, this is
He's the best. He's literally the best.
so it's kind of cool. Like, it's just really sweet to see this. But so that guy William was I'll let Mike tell a little bit. I'll tell the story about, well, I won't tell that story, never mind. He just has experienced some pretty wild things. I did share the story with some people, but he did some training, like he did jump school at Fort Benning in Georgia, and some training in Afghanistan and stuff, and
Yeah, he's been shot out of the sky, stabbed, tortured, all sorts of stuff, and he's like still got that energy. Still,
Yeah.
like the gospel is these guys' mission, and like that's what keeps them going. So I've experienced some tough stuff, but in comparison to these guys, nothing. So it was even difficult for me to talk to them, and then for them to still have that much like care.
Yeah.
And they're going back out after this. They're out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just these guys are pretty incredible. This was one of the nights they were going to be giving out some awards. Something happened. They ended up not, like, they didn't all come in or something. But anyways, one of the guys, Ben, the Canadian, he went out and bought sodas and cookies for everybody. So the guys, they just had a night where they had music. Like, we ended up going to bed. I don't even know how late they did this, but like cookies and soda and singing and dancing and
then the first thing they do with it too, instead of just accepting the gift, is turn around and start handing it out to all of us.
yeah.
Like giving us stuff.
I don't hear the train whistle. There it is. So this just went on for hours. It's pretty cool. This is the general, and the white guy is Wes. The guy on the other side of the general is Michael. He used to be the head chaplain. Now he's the pastor at Calvary Chapel Cush, which is the church on the base. And then the last morning when we were in South Sudan, before we left, we got to go out on these boats out on the Nile and see hippos, which was that was kind of a cool thing. This is Ivan. Ivan is the worship leader for the church in Nimali. Really neat guy. These crazy boats, man. Like homemade boats, yeah.
Yeah, the mayor of the town there in Nimali owns them. And so it was like random. They just called. He showed up in some field, introduced himself, and then took us to the boats. And then on the way back, he was in the back of our Land Cruiser in the truck, and he took us to his office. And we were like, "Are you a believer?" And like, he's saved. All his dudes are saved. He had us sign their logbook. We prayed with them. Like, it was super sweet.
So is the general too. It's really cool. Like, they have this mission to just bring, like, that is the mission of the army, is to bring Jesus to South Sudan. And they have this, like, there's a strong Muslim resistance that's just coming down from the north. And it seems as though they've, and it's weird because it's not like they're not gaining ground physically. It's not that they're like physically fighting the enemy back. They're just taking the gospel and they're just making their way further north with the gospel. Hippos. It was kind of cool. That was really cool, actually. This is at the church. This is on the base or the farm in Masindi. This is like the castle-like structure. That's how the whole walls around the whole place is. And then, so on the last Sunday there, we had church at the base, and then we had a baptism afterwards. This was really cool. There's a guy, the pastor at the church there, his name's John Carey, but he invited a bunch of other local churches to come out to this service, and then they had a big baptism service with people from all these different churches. And they first told us that it was 80 people were getting baptized. So they had four different teams. So me and Mike were one, and then 3 other teams of 2 guys. And it was just like, we're just pumping them out. It was really pretty cool. But I think I counted it at the end because somebody took pictures of everyone. I think we baptized like 35 people. Mike and I did. So I think it was way more than 80 people that got baptized. It's a jackfruit. That's Mike pointing at it. Mike and I don't know why, but we got the shallow in with the kids. And this is kind of funny. There's a video here, so you'll hear how loud it is. And every kid that came in, we would ask him what their name was. And when we were taking turns, and I would ask a kid, and his name would be like Isaac or Michael or something like that. And then for some reason, all the ones that Michael got were like just some crazy African name that he'd have to ask like 4 times, and then he would just call him buddy.
Do you know Jesus? You're going under.
This is so cool, though. This was a pretty awesome experience. And they just had a line of people coming out. I thought I had put a video on here. Oh, here. You just hear how chaotic it is. So, like, trying to get people's names.
A couple of them, we had to spray some extra water on them because they wouldn't go under all the way.
Yeah. So a lot of these kids have never been in a pool before. So they don't know how to swim. They're scared. So it got to where you'd have to like hold them, and then as you start to go back, you have to kick their legs out from underneath them.
Yeah, it's a good thing I was with him.
Or else they just weren't going. They were fighting it. They were like trying to stay up. There's another one. This was these are a couple of the guys that we were with that were also in the shallow end. Jack and Kevin. There they are again. This was did this like outreach at this at like a university or something, and they had something dripping. We did an outreach at this university. So one of the other guys taught a study, and then we ended up praying with all these people. This is
they're very active about like getting the other churches in the area involved. So there's 4 or 5 churches that all brought people to this. They bust them in from all over, and then they're super welcoming. Like every single person came up for prayer. People were getting saved. Like it was a really, really sweet time.
So then we went, after the baptisms, we did some more home visits in Uganda, but these home visits were all people that were part of the church, and these people actually were expecting us to be there. But the guy that we had, who was our interpreter, he was maybe 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. Just super sweet kid, but one of the places we went was his mom's house, which was cool, man. Like we showed up, she came out, she like brought a bunch of chairs out for us, and then she laid a mat down on the ground. She's just sitting on the mat, and they all wanted to share their testimony with us. That was a really neat thing, is just share what the Lord has done, and share their testimony, and we got to pray with all of them. And I think we gave them a bag that had like sugar and some other stuff in it, which all of that stuff really it's a pretty big deal. This was at their house. They had a little puppy that was
very defensive. Yeah,
it was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, like we rolled up and he started barking and growling.
Yeah, he thought he was 300 pounds, but Mike dealt with him. That's the only picture I had of Dave Zavala. This is one of the other people shared this on our WhatsApp group, but I shared that picture because this is the first time I had really met Dave, but he's my dad knows him really well, and obviously my sister and Dennis, but really cool guy. He's back stateside now, and then this is our whole team. This is there at the end. This is at the farm before we're getting ready to leave. That's Lino. That was me and Mike and Lino. So on the final ride back, it's like a 5.5 hour ride from the farm to the guest house in Kampala. So we were originally going to be riding in this nice air-conditioned van with big tons of seating and everything. And then Lino was in a Land Rover, and he's like, we have a couple seats. So Mike and I are like, let's go sit in the Land Rover. So Mike and I go over, and then Ben, the Canadian, comes with us too. And I was like, Ben, I think there's only 2 seats, man. And then I think it was Mike that was like, no, there's room. So so Ben came over. So then it was a tight ride. It was very tight for 5.5 hours. This is the beginning. We're all smiling at the beginning. By the end, we were all stuck together, sweat stuck together. This is just in Kampala. But I think that's it as far as like the stuff that I have. But do you have anything you want to share? And I want to see if anybody has any questions too.
Yeah, no, just briefly, like these guys' entire life is the gospel, and it's like they have a job to do being the chaplains and to be engaged in combat, but their primary thing is shepherding the people that are in front of them. And not only that, when they see opportunities, they're taking it. So every single area that they get deployed or sent to, whether it's a village or some of these guys are just in the mountains or in the jungle, they start churches in all of those places and teach people and try to get shepherds set up there, but they don't have enough people. And then on top of that, what's happening with the Muslims, like there's no defined actual front line. These guys are anywhere they're called, any response to intelligence, anywhere they're sent, there's a threat. I asked them, William, the guy that was doing the dancing, was my interpreter. Super awesome. He did one of the jobs I had in the military, he does as well. And so we bonded a little bit over that. But he's saying 75% of the time they're engaged in combat. Like it's a fight. It's not like they get to go back to a safe space after that. So in the middle of all that, as they're being, in a combat situation, they're taking refugees. Because things are not good in Sudan, so all those people are pushing from Sudan into South Sudan. So they're taking refugees, they're starting churches, they're shepherding their own guys. And so it's a ministry-rich environment, but that whole whether we live or die will be with Christ, it's based off of Philippians 1:21. And it's to live as Christ, to die as gain. So they have the understanding that to live, when he taught on this, he did a fantastic job of explaining it, but it's to bear the fruit of a Christ-like life. It's to bear the fruit of a Spirit-filled life. And that's all those dudes care about. And they know that if they die, they're very confident in where they're going. And there's I feel like I've failed in so many areas, and sharing the gospel just to the most simple thing. Like we went and we did these home visits, and everybody there was so excited to share their testimony. It's like, well, why can't we be as excited? That's the thing that changed their entire life. For us, just because we have these amenities, we have these other things, it shouldn't be different. That should be the defining moment of our life. So people are proud about some really weird stuff, and will talk your ear off about some really weird stuff in every single detail. At a minimum, I feel coming back here more of a call to share that everywhere I go. And it doesn't have to be some big explanation, but like if Jesus did something for you and changed your life, it's our responsibility to share that, especially while we have the opportunity. Because if we're not doing it now, well, it's permissive. I don't think that as things get more difficult, we're going to start doing that. So I'm encouraged to set the pattern for myself that, like, why can't I say, do you know Jesus? That shouldn't be a weird question. And whatever it's met with is the slightest persecution, because it's not some guy that's going to kill you for it. Also. So my takeaway from that was mainly that, and then just the encouragement of these guys. They're living it, like daily sacrificing themselves for the mission. So it was super eye-opening, and I'm very happy that I got to go. And, 100% we'll go again if needed.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity, and I'm grateful to you guys for letting us go. And then for also, it was so cool too to be. It was hard. It was very hard being gone. Like Sundays didn't feel right. Tuesdays didn't feel right. Like it was difficult, but then it was so comforting at the same time to know that like everything's taken care of, that there wasn't anything to worry about back here or anything like that. Like that was really pretty cool to see that, like, oh, life does go on, and like it was pretty sweet. So just such a cool trip, man. It was so encouraging. I'm grateful for the relationship, but then like Mike said too, there's the application side of it for us as we get back. Like, well, now that we've done this, and now that we've have these relationships, what does it mean for us individually? What does it mean for us as a fellowship? And it's just. I think the big thing is just being willing to be used, and whatever capacity that is, whether, the mission field's not necessarily just a foreign mission field. The mission field is at work and at home and at school and wherever it might be. So wherever the Lord has you, that's your mission field. For these guys, it just happens to be on the front lines in South Sudan. For somebody else, it happens to be, in Peru or in Canada or whatever. For us, it's here in Tarpon Springs, and We just want to be found faithful with it. So, does anybody have any questions about anything?
Guess the kids are done.
I think for the most part, you guys kind of answered my question. I know it's one thing for us to hear your experience and kind of glean from that, but for you to have been there in person, to experience with them, to hear the testimonies, to cry with them, to hold them and everything, how do you feel like that's giving you goal and trajectory and what you're going to bring back here and what in your walk, I guess? And you kind of highlighted a little bit of not being afraid to say, do you know Jesus?
I think, and I thought about this a while back on a Sunday I'd shared, because Wes, they're involved in Syria too, and he sent me some stuff about what was going on in Syria, and it's insane. Like, the stuff that's happening around the world is absolutely wild. Yeah, so it's like hundreds of thousands of people being put to death. Not just being put to death, but like brutally being put to death for their faith. And when we hear about these things going on, and like this has always been my takeaway, I feel like, of stuff like this, because I think I talked about this a little bit on Sunday. Like, it's easy to look at what's going on over there, and then you start to like gauge, well, I'm here, and then you start to feel guilty. Like, there's a sense of guilt. Like, I see what other people are experiencing. Like, I've walked into the mud huts where they literally have nothing, and they can't bathe, they can't brush their teeth, they can't, they're all these other things. They have no food. The kids in the jail are not eating. The only reason why they're eating tomorrow is because we just brought rice to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be eating. And then it's, part of us is like, well, it's really unfair. Like, why are we here? Why did the Lord, like, it's by His grace that we are here. At the same time, it's by His grace that they're where they are at. And 1 Corinthians 12, it pleases the Lord where He's placed you within the body. So I think that the best response that any of us could have, and I would say the same thing would be for them. Like, if we were able to bring them here and they spent time here and saw what was going on here, or whatever it is, our best response, and I think the best thing that we could do by them and for the Lord, is to be obedient with what's in front of us, is to recognize the calling. Like, it's easy to look at that and be like, oh man, things are so unfair. And, why am I here? Why do I have the things that I have, or the amenities or the luxuries or whatever? And you get that like survivor's guilt kind of thing. But you can't be paralyzed by that, and you can't feel guilty either. Paul says, I am who I am by the grace of God. Like, that's the truth for every one of us. So our response needs to be from a place of obedience, and the Lord, like, it pleases the Lord where He's placed me within the body. Like, I know the Lord's put me here at this time, at this place for a reason. So I think the best thing I can do for our brothers that are currently fighting battles on the front lines, or currently taking in refugees in Syria or in Ukraine or South America, or fighting child trafficking in Costa Rica, whatever it is, like, the best thing that I can do by any of those people is to be faithful with what the Lord's called me to do. I think it would be dishonoring to them to neglect the work that's in front of you for whatever reason, whatever cop-out we might have. It's just a reminder. It's a reminder to, man, time's short. The Lord has us here for a reason. It's by His grace, and we just need to be obedient. But
The call that's on your life individually that the Lord gave you guys, and His will for your life is the most important thing for you to do. I don't think that the Lord is looking at what different people are doing and saying this is better than what someone else is doing, or this is a higher calling.
yeah,
The calling that He's given you is the highest calling that you can have, to just be faithful in that. Even if it doesn't seem like a lot when you're faithful in little, you'll be faithful in a lot.
Yeah.
So be faithful for yourself.
for sure. Cool. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. If anybody thinks of anything or has any questions, just let me know. You can email me, or you can ask me, or whatever. I'm sure there'll be a couple more things that'll come up that we'll share as we move along. But that's really it. That's the kind of the trip in the nutshell. That was a quick version of everything, but it was a super sweet trip. Really cool. All right. Do you want to close us in prayer?